There was a. Oh no. So firstly, this meeting is being visually and audio recorded for publication on Thatcham Town Council YouTube channel. So good evening and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of Planning and Highways Committee. And apologies for needing to call it, but I think it's an urgent and important matter relating to the local plan. So firstly, turning to the Madam Town Clerk for apologies for absence.
Chairman, apologies received from Councillor Lourdes Cottam, and we have Councillor Jeffrey appointed as substitute.
Thank you. Declarations, any declarations of interest? Apart from the fact we all live in Thatcham, but that's taken as read. So thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, the only substantive agenda item. I'll give a bit of introduction. So those of you who were at the last Planning and Highways meeting will recall that I reported that we had learnt from the specialist journal, a specialist journal for planning, that West Berkshire Council had let the contract for the 30-year vision for North East Thatcham and also for Sandalford to a company called Iceni Projects Limited. And if you recall back to the meeting, last full council meeting at the end of January, when Brian Little gave us an update, he said that the contract, the contract had been let, didn't give us a name, and said that they would be doing consulting extensively in February and March. So we're coming to the end of March and we have heard nothing. So the purpose of this meeting is to open the engagement with the company whose name we now know, to try to get involved in that work. There are 2 items which are effectively reflect the 2 options, depending on whether we had heard or not from this company. So for item 3A, I'll turn to Madam Town Clerk to ask, have we received any correspondence from either Iceni or the Town or West Berkshire Council since we sent out the agenda?
We haven't, Chairman.
Thank you. So the document that we sent out with the agenda was the press release, press article, which appeared to be based on a press release, or certainly from information directly from West Berkshire Council, because it had quotations from Brian Little. And since then, I wrote a draft letter for consideration by this meeting addressed to the company Iceni Projects Limited. And so agenda item 3B is to consider that, that letter for approval to send. So so the letter itself basically states what I have said. It quotes from the text of the draft minutes for the full council meeting, which Town Clerk reminded me existed. I think we haven't circulated, we haven't received them yet, but anyway, they are based on the recording, I expect, therefore they are accurate. And quotes from the extracts from the press release, and basically invites the company to get in contact, and we offer any support that they wish in order to facilitate their work. Thank you. So, Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chairman. I noticed that in the press release, we picked up that Brian Little, who does have a slightly unusual spelling of both his names, both times with a Y, and I would just make the comment that if we do send this letter or something like it, can we make sure, if you look at the final but 1 paragraph, we've managed to put an I instead of a Y for Brian.
Yeah.
Let's not do anything which can be interpreted as not being respectful to somebody and all the rest of it. Right, but the actual matter in hand, the word disappointment is probably a fairly considerable understatement of how I feel. There does seem to be, I mean, I have the privilege of being a West Berkshire councillor, and there does seem to be a sort of an attitude that would appear to be coming on occasion from West Berkshire, that they can do what they like, when they like, as they like, and when they say something, it means really whatever they want it to mean. And genuinely, if Brian Little was being serious that we were going to be consulted, and we were going to be consulted in January, in February or March, by February, March, as you say, to have got to the, let me just quickly check, we're on the 21st, aren't we? To have got to the 21st of March and not to have heard a dicky bird is going to be pretty damn difficult to do any kind of meaningful consultation with this council on the public's behalf between now and the end of March. If they even tried, I shouldn't think get a date in the diary in this timescale. I would have expected that courtesy alone, quite apart from any normal practicalities, but courtesy alone would say that we should have had a letter or an email to the clerk saying, sorry, things delay, it's going to be a month later, or the whole of the picture has changed and we're working out what we're going to do. But this particular consultation for February, March is not going to take place. But no, with West Berkshire, it seems to be just let it drift on. We said we'd do it. Now we haven't done it. Never mind. Nobody will notice, will they? That is the appearance that comes with what we're dealing with at the moment. I certainly don't want to be responsible for any of us curtailing any kind of debate and discussion in this meeting. But I think, Mr. Chairman, you have done very well to bring this to our attention, to urge that we have the otherwise unscheduled meeting to deal with this. And my own feeling is very strongly in favour of sending a letter modelled on what we've got here, with maybe one or two changes, but fundamentally to put the marker down to West Berkshire that this is not an appropriate way to behave. Just in case there's anybody that has forgotten what this is about, this is not, are we agreeing to an extra lamppost in the corner and we feel very offended they haven't discussed it with us. We're talking about a town the size of Hungerford being added to Thatcham. That's what we're talking about. This is not being offended because they haven't done the right bit of consultation at the right time by the right day. It is, we have got to have some meaningful discussion, consultation and joint operation with West Berkshire Council and with whomsoever they are dealing with, be they developers, be they consultants. That has got to be taking place and it isn't taking place. Thank you.
Councillor Lister.
So thank you. And if Councillor Jeffrey wishes to propose the adoption of this letter, I'd be happy to second. So I can just add a few other remarks, and many have just been captured already by Councillor Jeffrey. So, I mean, likewise, I was very disappointed how we became aware of this. It was actually through a resident who happened to be reviewing these trade journals that picked up on this and forwarded that information to myself, and hence we have this meeting. And prior to this meeting, it made me revisit the Thatcham vision work that was completed in 2016. There's something like 3 or 4 years of work that went into that. There were 100 volunteers that I understand helped prepare that document. They reached out to the community, they had several consultations, they captured 2,000 different opinions, they had different work streams addressing every aspect of the town to be able to set out a vision for the future, covering everything from the housing need, which should be bang in the money for what these consultants should be considering. They reviewed the GP surgery, the dentist access, the recreation facilities, the transportation, environmental aspects. That was a piece of work that took many years and multiple consultations across the community to deliver. All that work, of course, is now dated because we're talking about an entire new town, 2,500 houses the size of Hungerford, which surely must require an equivalent, if not greater, consultation and consideration. And to find out that this work is active. Maybe it's even finished, we're not quite too sure, or coming to a close. And there has been no consultation yet with either us or the rest of the community. Is really disappointing. But I'd really like to reach out positively to the consultants and support them in the work that they will have to do to reach out to the community. And this will be the first time that West Berkshire Council will have done any, or at least the first time they've had an opportunity to do any face-to-face consultation with people of Thatcham. Because for the last 2 years, it's all been behind virtual screens and COVID measures and so forth. Now there is an opportunity to reach out to the people in the community halls, sit down with the community and answer the questions and set out what that vision is. So I'm very happy you made the letter, and I'll be happy to second.
Councillor Crumley.
Thank you, Chairman. What do we know about Iceni projects, and where are they based?
Okay, so from their website, I can say that they're a fairly large business. They have 4 offices spread around the country, and they do a range of planning related consultancy. So I can't really say much more than that, but they are a big company. They're not just a
The
handful.
sort of company that will be dealing with this work described in the correspondence. So
Yeah.
I just wonder if they turns out they were aiming for the wrong guy and that
No, this is-
they're simply a stand bearer for somebody else.
I think that's very unlikely. So they are the sort of company. Well, firstly, they said it specifically that the contract was let with them, and they are the sort of company I would expect at the sort of scale that would be necessary to do this work quickly.
You've complained that nothing's come back from West Berkshire or Iceni. Has any inquiry been made, for instance, of Brian Little or some senior person at West Berkshire planning to find out what's going on and why we're not inside the circle instead of out?
I haven't, but I think the problem is that we need, at this stage, we just need to make sure that we make contact with Iceni. We couldn't hang around and wait to get a response from the council and then move on again. So, anybody else? Can I make two observations? The first one about timing is that as West Berkshire Council did not appreciate when they did the growth study, that the town council cannot, or councillors cannot speak on behalf of the council without a specific brief. And if you remember, a number of councillors were invited to that meeting at the Regency Park Hotel, and we gave personal opinions, and then that was represented as being speaking on behalf of the council, which it could not have been. So that's another reason why it takes time, because we can't just sort of arrange a meeting. If we do have a meeting, it will need to be initiated by a formal meeting of the Planning and Highways Committee to set that in train, and possibly for them to attend that meeting. But even if it's not that meeting, we would still need to have a meeting of Planning and Highways in order to initiate that. Second point, I was going to ask the meeting if we wish to add a reference to the Thatcham growth study in this letter, if it's sufficiently relevant that it would assist them in their work to know about it if they're not already. I'm looking to Councillor Foster.
Well, sorry, I was just going to say, from what's been said around this table, I understand that we've accidentally discovered the name of the company that's dealing with it. So that's good, but that's the one side, if you like. Because Brian Little said to us that the consultation will be happening before the end of March, and it hasn't, to me, it is perfectly appropriate to pick up the phone to him and say, you said it would happen by the end of March and it hasn't. It's happening. As another route in to finding out what's going on. I absolutely agree with sending this letter to Iceni, but I think a phone call to Brian Little, and we might actually get a bit more information, through that than we would get through a sort of very standard reply to this all get.
Well, I'm assuming that the company is planning to have some contact with us in the future, and therefore this sort of gets it in motion and gets the contacts very speeded up. And also, one would hope that they will be having face-to-face meetings with residents as well, and then we're offering our facilities for those meetings, so it's also speeding things up there. Yeah, the
But I
proposal is that Brian is copied in with other officers in the letter.
That's
so
a
we
phone
can-
conversation with, he might say stuff that he'll be able to say in writing.
So, so in response to Chair, your previous comment, I think the letter is self-explanatory. I don't think we need to spell out the local plan study. I'm sure the consultants will have been briefed with that to start with. So I don't think that's necessary. I think it's helpful to have a formal letter so it's on the record. And you know the dangers with phone calls.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
You're saying this as well. I understand.
It's both.
Yeah, and in your comment, yes, it's absolutely correct that we have a committee meeting for planning and highways of full council where the consultants come in because we can't speak individually for the council. We can only do so through decisions made by the council. So yes, they should come to a committee meeting of full council. And in addition, we should support through the facilities that we have, the community halls, the opportunity for them to present and to consult with the public and the community. So I suppose there's two aspects there where we're looking to help them, both with us and also that outreach to the community, which I think is absolutely essential for this enormous project.
And reasonable. I mean, you know, if we didn't ask for that, we'd probably be deficient in doing what we should do, I think.
Councillor Jeffrey.
I've got considerable sympathy with what Bridget is saying, Councillor Foster is saying. I think it misses a point that, as Brian Little was already telling us, that this is what will be happening and it hasn't happened. I'm not so keen on the phone call, which has no record other than you have to write it down. I would rather that, I think it would be entirely appropriate to send a letter to Brian Little saying, where do we stand, what's going on? And then he's got it and he knows that we're concerned, and possibly to carbon copy it to somebody else within West Berkshire Council as well.
The letter is, the draft is
The draft is to David Kavanagh, which is the managing director of Iceni.
I know, but it's copied to.
And Brian was copied in.
But other officers, so it was Brian Owens, is it?
So Sue Halliwell,
And Sue
Eric Owens, Brian Little, and Councillor Richard Sumner.
Oh, right,
So it will go to everybody in the main management system.
yes.
Okay. I see no one.
Just one point confuses me, Chair. The announcement of the Iceni contract had obviously gone into this specialist publication, which suggests there was some kind of public announcement of it through normal PR channels. So ordinarily at that point, it would reach the local press and be circulated to relevant councils as well. What I don't understand is how it found its way into the specialist media without ever reaching local record.
I'm not sure that it was an official press release from the council. It might have been a press information from an officer. So yes, that's another question, but I don't think we can answer that. But I assume that had the Newbury Weekly News received that press release, probably there would have been an article about it.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we had a proposal from Councillor Jeffrey, a second from Councillor Lister. I see those in favour of sending the letter. Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And with that, I therefore draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.
Can the